So welcome to this webinar about self-care, and I do think that it's Ortho-Bionomy's secret superpower. Yeah, we'll discover why through the presentation tonight. I firstly will just do an acknowledgement to start. I acknowledge the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung people as the traditional owners and custodians of the land in which I live and work here in Naarm or Melbourne. I also acknowledge the traditional owners and custodians of the lands from which you are all tuned into the class today, and I acknowledge their sovereignty over these lands was never ceded. I pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. So I'm an advanced practitioner and instructor. I've been in practice for over 20 years. I joined OBA's inaugural board of directors in 2012 when SOBA transitioned to become OBA, and I served for over 8 years on the board. I also served on SOBI's Instructor Review Committee for 2 years, and I'm currently the chair of the first Instructor Review Committee for OBA. I'm the mother of 2 daughters. I live with my partner and 1 teenage daughter in Melbourne. I'm a cinema fan, a knitter, and a walker. So that gives you a little bit of an understanding of who I am. Okay, so what we'll cover today, we'll look at the systemic inequality, power dynamics, and healing, and how all of those intersect in our work with our clients. We'll look at how healing and pain relief work briefly, because that's a complex, big subject. We'll look at healers versus guides. We'll look at the revolutionary value of Ortho-Bionomy self-care as I see it. And we'll talk about how to teach self-care so that your clients will use it and get benefit from it. How to teach self-care to groups, and we'll talk about how to teach self-care to clients online, as I hear Fiona has been doing, and no doubt some of others of you have done also. So systemic inequality, power dynamics, and healing. Our society, as you no doubt all know, is based on the oppressive systems of patriarchy, white supremacy, and toxic capitalism. And these systems operate everywhere, including in healing settings, where they show up as the unequal power dynamic between the client and practitioner. The client, in this dynamic, the client is broken or lacking in healing and must pay an expert or seek help from an expert healer, usually a white man, let's face it. I'm talking not just about Ortho-Bionomy, but broadly across our society, with all therapies, practices, health practice, and so on. So they must seek help or healing from someone else who's an expert to fix them. Many people think of healing across our society as something external to them and bestowed upon them by the healer. And we see evidence for this mindset when clients say, wow, you're a miracle worker. It's all thanks to you. You know, I wouldn't be here except for your help. And that's partly true, but only partly. It's only part of the story. So a little snapshot of how pain and healing work, as many of you would already know, all pain is created in the brain in response to its perception of a threat or potential harm. And it can perceive the threat or potential harm from either internal body signals, whether that's tension or something changing in the tissues in the body, or from psychological or emotional threat, whether it might be painful memories, or emotions, or even beliefs or ideas that can create a sense of danger. And it can also be from social and environmental conditions. And there's a reference to the book Explain Pain Supercharged there, which of course goes into a lot more detail about how pain works. And then of course, when we're in pain, the social part of our brain is activated and it drives us to seek support from someone else. So that is a natural part of our healing process, to find someone else to help us or to get support from someone else. So that is a natural thing that we do, but it's just when we get into the power dynamic of the hierarchical power dynamic where it's sort of derailed. And of course, then the flip side is that all pain relief and all healing arise from within the body via our natural internal processes. Sorry, the flip side is actually when we feel safe, that the brain switches off the pain response. And then all pain relief and all healing arise from within the body. And then the short version of how Ortho-Bionomy works. Ortho-Bionomy supports a sense of safety by being gentle, slow, and non-forceful. So the fact that our brains will turn down the volume of pain in our bodies when they perceive safety, or for people who do Ortho-Bionomy, is that we know we're already going to be helping people when we, just by being gentle and slow. So the techniques that we use are perfectly designed to create a sense of safety for people. And then ideally the practitioner supports that safety by consciously offering a calm, non-judgmental presence. Both of those things are recognized by people as safe, non-judgmental, calm. When we're with someone who is being calm, it feels safer. And of course, so of course that presence that we bring to our sessions with clients also helps to create a safer atmosphere. And of course, noting there that we can't make it completely safe at all times for all people, because for example, especially as a white person, I can't guarantee that a person who's Black, Indigenous, or a person of color will automatically feel safe with me, even with my gentle work and my calm presence, just because of their past trauma with white people. They may have been subjected to violence by white people, or even from their intergenerational, previous generations had been subject to violence from white people. So we can't always make our clinic setting and our engagement with clients completely safe, but at least we can offer our calm presence, our non-judgmental presence, and a safer atmosphere, with the aim of helping most people feel better with us. So we're already, even before we've used our Ortho-Bionomy skills, we're already helping people to feel safe and turn down the volume on their pain. Gentle touch anyway feels comforting for most people, and the gentle joint compression of the Ortho-Bionomy techniques stimulates the relaxation reflex in the muscles. And then, of course, that relaxation reflex sends the message of safety through the brain, through the nervous system, to help the brain recognize safety. And then our work enables our clients to release any resistance, known as tension, also known as tension, that can block their internal healing processes. And resistance can be caused by stress, beliefs, postural tension habits, etc., as you would all know. And then the brain recognizes the release of that resistance or reduced threat and the feeling of safety, and can switch off or turn down the volume on the pain response, as I was saying. So as you would know, we practitioners aren't doing the healing. We are facilitating, we're guiding and supporting the client's own healing. But as you would all know, the healing is happening internally. All of the healing happens inside the body. Even if we, have surgery or use medicines or something like that, those things can set up the right conditions for our healing. but all of the healing process is internal and happening naturally in our own bodies. Our own bodies are incredibly resilient and incredibly quick to return to a state of balance and homeostasis and optimal health as far as we can get in any moment. So it's just about creating the right conditions for healing to happen. A couple of quotes here that support this idea. Albert Schweitzer, it's supposed to be a professional secret, but I'll tell you anyway. We doctors do nothing. We only help and encourage the doctor within. I love that quote because it's so apt for ortho-bionomy. And the Chinese proverb, when the heart is at ease, the body is healthy. And I feel that speaks to the sense of safety and the sense of safety and ease that we create in an ortho-bionomy session between us and our client as well, helping the body to be healthy that way. And so why give self-care? Arthur Lincoln Pauls reportedly said, if you don't want your clients to get better, don't give them self-care. So as he knew, people only achieve lasting change through empowered embodiment of their own self-healing intelligence. We have all that happens in the Ortho-Bionomy session, which I've just been discussing. But then what happens then? What happens after the session is actually the key, from my point of view, it's the key part of the healing journey, because in a session between the client and the practitioner, there can, even with our best intentions, there can even still be a sense that the practitioner is doing the healing work for the client. And so I feel like it's when the client transitions to using self-care, that's when they really get that they are healing for themselves. And for me, that's the more transformative and deeper part of the healing process. So ortho-bionomy self-care techniques help people transition from being passive receivers in the session to being active agents in their own healing and believing in their capacity to change. And without doing self-care, as I was saying, there's still the risk that the client will assume the healing was done by the expert and isn't repeatable by them, except by returning for repeat sessions. And I do think that's where some modalities, some therapies, some practitioners can fall into a trap of becoming the expert healer, the guru. And unfortunately, that really just sets up a dependence dynamic between where the client feels dependent on the practitioner to give them their healing. And that's not what I got into ortho-bionomy for. And probably that's the same for a lot of you. So success, how to be successful with self-care. Use ortho-bionomy self-care yourself and walk the talk, as so many of you have said here tonight, that you've experienced the transformative power of ortho-bionomy self-care. I think it was definitely part of my evolution from being an ortho-bionomy client to becoming a practitioner, was that and recognizing the unique power of ortho-bionomy was having my ortho-bionomy practitioner give me self-care, even in my first session with her, to show me how to release tension and pain in my jaw. And that was really a turning point for me, because I had experienced a very forceful form of body therapy when I was a young girl, that was utterly disempowering. And this experience of having the ortho-bionomy session, not only feeling it being gentle and nurturing, but then being given a tool to help myself was incredibly empowering. So it was the night and day experience that I had, that between those two experiences of therapy, and it was the self-care that created that experience, that different experience. So I really encourage you to get a copy of Luann Overmeyer's self-care book if you haven't already. I know a lot of you will already have it. I recommend that you try at least 2 new techniques every week if you aren't familiar with the book, or if you've just got it sitting on your shelf and don't very often refer to it. But learning self-care, learning the techniques for yourself and using them regularly will be really key to improving and enhancing your ability to communicate it to your clients. It will help you to learn how to modify the techniques when something's not quite right for you or not working. It'll show you how that sometimes it's awkward to use certain techniques at home, depending on what your furniture's like. And those are the experiences that your clients will have with self-care when you give them techniques to use. So it's really vital to use the self-care yourself, because you're getting a direct experience of what your clients are experiencing too. So and demonstrate techniques in every session with your clients. That's what I strongly urge you to do. Obviously, sometimes if you've been working, doing a lot of sessions with somebody and they already have a sort of a library or a toolkit of self-care techniques built up that you've given them, obviously then you don't need to teach them something new every time. Of course, that's going to be counterproductive. But I do still recommend or draw their attention to certain techniques in each session, depending on what I feel is most appropriate for them at the time. So make it a feature of every session that you talk with your clients about self-care. And then I strongly urge you, all of you who are practitioners, to consider teaching self-care group classes. It's certainly a great way to promote your practice. I've often had people come up to me after going through a self-care class and say, I really need more help with my shoulder or whatever it is. Can I book in to see you? So I think sometimes there's a bit of a feeling that the self-care is like a lesser or add-on thing for our practice, but I actually see it as really key. And it is a great way to have more people learn about ortho-bionomy by coming to a self-care class. It's sort of a good a good gateway or introduction to ortho-bionomy, because it's because not many people know about ortho-bionomy. It's an easy yes for somebody to turn up to a 1-hour self-care class or a 2-hour self-care class that's going to show them how to relieve their own back pain. It's quite easy, and it'll be a sort of a low price point usually. So it's like an easy introduction for someone to experience ortho-bionomy, and then usually a lot of the participants are more inclined to take up sessions after that. And of course, give guided self-care sessions on Zoom or virtual, any virtual platform, which I've been doing quite a lot, and I strongly urge you to do that. Really, they're just ortho-bionomy sessions, but given virtually. So those are all the ways you can use it, and I urge you to consider doing a lot of them. Looking at each of those options in turn. So self-care and client sessions, I've talked about some of this already, but I urge you to have a copy of Luann's book in your office. to refer to, and certainly that helps you while you're learning all the techniques that there are, and helps with your memory. You can use, one way to recommend self-care is while you're working with your client and you're holding them in a release position, or you can do it afterwards. But while you're using a position, for example, say you have them lying with their leg hanging down off the side of the table for the L5 leg hang release, you can, of course, recommend that they use this at home. Hey, you could do this for yourself at home. When you do have back pain, you can get into this position to relieve it. And so that's a really good way of introducing the self-care piece to the client, because they already are in the position. They can feel how it's relieving and how it's comfortable. Excuse me. And then, of course, you can advise them on modification, so modifying the technique for when they're doing it at home for themselves, telling them, for example, in this example, bring the other leg down to the floor and push up with your hands to stand up, so that you can avoid retightening your back by lifting the leg up back onto the bed. So and you can advise them, of course, if you're doing this on your couch and it's low to the floor, put a pillow under your knee or something like that. So keeping in mind, not everybody will be able to take in the information while they're in a release position, because they might be tuning out or, in a deep state of relaxation, ideally. So so in that case, it's always good to just remind them at the end of the session, now remember that position where you are lying with your leg hanging down off the side of the table. Remember, you can use that at home. You could even instruct them to sort of guide them through doing the technique again once they've got up from the end of the session. Try it again, lie down on the table here and hang your leg down, and then practice getting up. So also then, once they're in a position at the end of the session, you're talking about the self-care, you can take a photo with their phone if they're interested in that, and then they can take away the visual reminder on their phone of the position that you've recommended to them. And of course, as I say at the end there, you could allow them to take a photo of the particular technique in Luann's book as well, if you have it there. Some of my clients have photographed the photo, because there's a photo for every technique in Luann's book. And then the instructions are there as well that they can photograph. So that's a good way of, those are some good ways of working with the self-care in your sessions. There's often this sort of worry, will I lose clients if I teach them self-care? Because in fact, even clients have said to me before, oh, you've given me so much self-care, I know exactly how to do it, but doesn't this mean you're doing yourself out of a job? And of course, it's never the case, because I believe teaching them self-care demonstrates your true commitment to the client's healing process. And it shows them that you want to help them get better. You want them to not need to keep on seeing you indefinitely, and that you don't see them as a cash cow. And I actually think that's a point of difference with Ortho-Bionomy, and especially Ortho-Bionomy self-care, from some modalities or some practitioners who have people coming back every week for the repeat session, the same session again, every week in, week out, year in, year out. So yeah, I feel like the self-care is what empowers and liberates people from that dependency on the practitioner. And it is why many of them will sing your praises to their friends and family more than anything. Lots of my clients have talked about it in that way with me. Then self-care in group classes, as Kim was mentioning earlier, she first encountered Ortho-Bionomy when I taught a self-care class in Wurrigi, which is near Beechworth in northeastern Victoria. And that was an amazing experience. I had a client who came down to see me in Melbourne from the area, and she said to me, would you come and teach, do self-care classes up in my area? And so I decided to do that, and they were so successful. We ended up doing 2 self-care classes a year for a few years up that way. And so many people came to the classes and were really intrigued and really interested and really enthusiastic about the Ortho-Bionomy. I had my biased perception was that the people I was going to be visiting wouldn't be very open to Ortho-Bionomy, but they were really open to the self-care. And I also had lots of people who came to have sessions with me whenever I visited to do a self-care class. So it's really something to consider, whether you teach them, regionally or just in your own local area. It's really worth considering teaching self-care classes. You can just pick one area of the body, one region of the body, say the low back or the shoulders or the neck or something like that, if you want to just do short, brief, small classes. Or you can teach a sort of all the major regions of the body, say neck, shoulder, back and hips, over say 2 hours. And that's what I did in these regional classes. They were extremely successful. It's important, as with your own client sessions, if you're going to do group classes, to find and create a safe environment, safe feeling environment that supports people to relax deeply. So it's got to be warm in winter, cool in summer, of course. It's got to be private and it's got to be quiet. So also another way of helping people feel safe with these environments is to give clear instructions about what to bring or where and what to expect when they're coming to the class, and also to give them permission to not follow your instructions if they are uncomfortable for them. To ask for help and to speak up when they're uncomfortable, because these classes are often the first experience of Ortho-Bionomy for a lot of people. It's important that you give clear instructions about, excuse me, been talking too long, clear instructions about giving them permission to express or to speak up if they don't feel uncomfortable, because there are a lot of settings in our society where that's not appropriate, or it's felt to be not appropriate. So you've got to give clear instructions about that too. And just another bit about a few more items about the self-care classes. Make sure you're charging for your time, including your planning for the class and your training and expertise. Consider also attending the class will potentially get years of value from the class. That's especially true if you prepare a booklet or workbook, handout. Doesn't have to be, it could be printed or downloaded online. If you prepare something with the instructions for all of the techniques you teach in the class, do charge an additional fee for that, because that is giving them enormous value as well. If you consider that potentially a self-care class, even 1 2-hour class and a workbook with the self-care techniques in it, could potentially save someone lots of money and lots of time because it can replace needing to have lots of treatments. So really consider the value that you're offering people, and make sure you're getting a good reciprocation by them paying you appropriately. And if you are offering classes out of town, as I did, see if you can find a community-minded person who can find the venue and scout for participants, which is exactly what my coordinator did for me. And then you would they do that in exchange for the class fee, as we do with regular Ortho-Bionomy coordinators. Make sure they're getting their class fee covered in exchange for their help. There's virtual Ortho-Bionomy sessions. And this is a quote from a client of mine who had seen me quite a few times, lots of times over the years for in-person sessions. And then she took up one of my virtual sessions, and she said that the thing that amazed her, so I'll just read it out. The thing that amazed me about our online session was how much better I started sleeping right away. So that night I slept much better. Wow. Also, I really liked that there was no way in my mind I could think Janine did this. So all the activity was generated by me. I love that about it. That now I have these techniques that I remember, and I use them because the results came from me in the first place. It's a really liberating feeling. And I think that really sums up why I think the self-care is so powerful in Ortho-Bionomy, because it really disengages us from that idea that we are dependent on others to fix us. It's, as she says, it's liberating, it's empowering. And this woman, it had even done, I'd given her self-care techniques to use lots of times in sessions, and she did use them. But it was remarkable that she really got better results from doing the self-care techniques after we'd gone through this virtual session. So yeah, I thought that was pretty powerful. So guided self-care sessions one-to-one on Zoom is something that I offer my clients. Really, I say self-care sessions there, but they're really Ortho-Bionomy sessions. They're like a midway point between in-person sessions and the person just doing self-care by themselves at home. Your presence is a very big part of the session, even though it's virtual, even though you're not in the room together. It's remarkable how connected you can still feel with your client online. And I'm sure Fiona may have experienced that too, and anyone else who's done that with their clients. So there's a few things to consider about doing those sessions virtually. Make sure you have them gather up pillows and blankets to support you. You will actually use those as props. The blankets, of course, are for lying on or for covering them up so they don't get cold, but you will actually need a lot of pillows. I have people bring about 5 or 6 pillows because they'll use them to prop themselves up to replace your hands supporting them in place of your hands. So so lots of pillows, blankets, a chair to sit on, because some of the techniques, the self-care techniques, are done sitting on a chair. And you want them to have their laptop or PC in front of a bed or couch so you can observe their positioning and guide them in real time into the release positions. I always suggest people use a laptop or a PC and not a tablet or a phone, because it is much easier to see each other on the larger screen of a computer. And yeah, it just makes it a lot easier. And then open and close the session as you would with an in-person session. So you would take a history of the complaint, have them stand in front of their computer and turn around to different angles so that you can observe any postural imbalances that are present as you would observe them standing in your clinic room. And then once you've finished with that and you're going to move into using some positioning, you would guide them to check. You could guide them to check indicator points as you would. So depending on where the points are and their mobility, and you can then create the relevant release position. That's, the appropriate position for that indicator point. Or, of course, you can guide their positioning to exaggerate the observed holding patterns, the holding patterns or postural patterns that you have seen in them while they were standing or lying down. As I was saying before, I really feel like this heightens your skills. Well, I wasn't saying this part before, but I'll say that in a minute. I do feel like working this way really heightens your skills of observation and of communication about how to get the right positioning, you guiding the client to as to what they're paying attention to when they're in the release position. It really helps them to come right into their bodies in a way that I feel our in-person sessions don't. So it's like next level for me. These guided sessions, virtual sessions, are like next level of ortho-bionomy, where you're really helping the person to deeply connect with their own body and their own process and their own capacity to change and to get pain relief. So yeah, it heightens your skills of observation and communication. And I really feel like it heightens enhances your ability to sense via phase 6, because as you know, phase 6 is energetic work. We can do that in the room with a person or not. And so I feel like it's a great opportunity to use phase 6. And also it enhances your intuitive skills, because I've noticed with my sessions, virtual sessions with clients, that I really can tune in a deeper way in these sessions than I expected to. So as I say there, you can connect quite deeply despite the distance. It really surprised me how much I could connect with people online, even though we weren't in the same room together. So I have made up a guide to giving online sessions if you're interested to learn more about that. This guide, it's a 10-page guide. I made it up for last year. I presented was it last year or the year before? Anyway, I presented a study group about giving online sessions. And so because of arising out of the discussion we had and the questions that people had, I made up this guide that you can download from the link that you see there, the URL at the bottom. It's a $25 fee for the guide. And if you can't take down that URL at the bottom there, you can always email me. I'll give my email address at the end if you'd like to inquire about buying the guide. So if you want to work with me in one of the ways that you can is that I run monthly study groups on Zoom. Usually they're the first Saturday of the month. I have to skip August, but the next one will be on Saturday, 3rd of September, as you see there. I usually have a theme or a topic for the study group. And these are interactive study groups, fully interactive participatory study groups. They're not lecture format, but discussion format. So we start off with a topic and we generally focus on that topic, but with the discussion includes the participants' questions, whether it's about client issues or their own issues that they're wanting help with. We clarify techniques from a range of the different classes in Ortho-Bionomy. And it's a great way, as these webinars are, it's another great way to connect with your Ortho-Bionomy community members between classes because of it being the discussion format. I see there's a few people here tonight who have come to quite a few of those study groups. It's nice to see you here again tonight. So, and this is how you can contact me. So we've come to the end of the content, I suppose, of the self-care topic.
Janine, I've been keeping an eye on the chat, and there was some questions from Megan from NT. How do you encourage your clients further and they don't follow through? Is that what you meant, Megan?
Yeah, pretty much. You know, like each session, I will give self-care. I'll give a handout, like I'll photocopy some of Luann's book and all of that. And they go, yes, yes. And they come back the next session and you go, how have you been going with that? Oh, I did it once.
Aha. Well, I actually think that's not a bad thing. I feel like the body knows what it needs. So it may be, I will often say to my clients, okay, I think that maybe you only needed it that once. So I don't have any judgment around, you know, when they did it, how often they did it, what they used, what they didn't use. And I've found that once I started having that approach to it, that people were more inclined to use them. So it was like, and in fact, also when I stopped giving them handouts, it was better.
Okay.
So yeah, because I don't know whether there's an issue about it just feels like homework, you know, from school, or maybe it connects in with that, still with that idea that it's something, this is healing that someone else gives me.
So would you be suggesting all the time then that they just take some photographs?
Yeah, I would, like I suggested, it's a good idea to ask if they want you to take a photo of on their phone of them in the position.
Yeah, I've done that.
Yep, you've done that too. And do you talk to them about it being something they would need to do every day, or just when they have some pain? Or
probably I am a little bit more prescriptive, but listening to you in terms of just saying, look, if you get some pain, I mean, I think I do sometimes say, particularly say the frog legging one, you know, that I might go, look, this would be really beneficial for me. I hop into bed and I try that every night, which side feels right, and I just do it. And I go off to sleep that way. So I might explain it that way. But then sometimes I think I do go, oh, yes, you should do that, you know, once a day or something like that. And you're right, it immediately becomes prescriptive. And I think they tune out. And I think they do sort of keep coming back going, oh, well, you'll help me.
Yeah,
That's the bit I haven't got through to them.
Yeah. Yeah, look, you know, some people just want to rock up and be fixed.
Oh.
So there's not always, we can't always change that. Yeah. But I think, yeah, the less prescriptive you are, the better. I think that's really, you've hit on to it there. That's definitely what I've found too, is that if I say to them, you know, just do this when your body will know, your body will tell you when you need to do this. Just do it when it feels right to do it. But I also will be talking about, this is not something like those exercises where you have to do 10 reps a day of this and 10 reps a day of that. This is for taking care of you or for helping you feel better when you need it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Sure.